A special edition of First and 12. The expanded college football playoffs. What Big 12 teams have the best shot? Can both Utah and BYU make it? And who goes on to win it all? Our hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another edition of First and 12 right here this week on the KSL Sports Zone with General Conference. Mitch Harper and I right here on your dial at 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Mitch Harper, of course, is the BYU insider for KSLSports.com and the host of Cougar Sports Saturday, and probably the best in the market. Not probably, best in the market when it comes to covering the Cougs. And so you can hear me with JJ, with Jeremiah Jensen every day on the KSL Sports Zone in the afternoon. But we've got tons to talk about. Mitch, it's our second hour on a beautiful Sunday where neither BYU nor Utah are playing this weekend. And here we are trying to twiddle our thumbs and figure out what to do with ourselves. We still have to work. That's the point. We didn't know what to do. We thought we'd take time with our families. No such thing.
And so. that was the thing too for BYU and Utah this week. It was a work-like week. And, and that was the messaging clearly from Kalani Sitake. As you know, he's been salty this whole year on his press conferences with the media, and nothing was different this week in a bye, but. Still, there was some interesting commentary from Kalani as they're 5-0 riding high after a hot start.
Yeah, Kalani, I wanted to ask you, what have been your impressions of how Jake Retzloff is just preparing each and every week as these weeks stack up and how he's operating, away from the field as a leader in this program?
Yeah, he's doing a great job. I think he's working really well with the quarterback room and, in terms of the offense, I think he's starting to really come into his own, starting to feel really, really comfortable with everything, the timing of all of it, and it could get better. But I like where he's at right now, and I like where his mindset is. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing great things from him. We asked him to do a little bit more running last game, especially in the first half, and he did a great job for us. So he's willing to do whatever it takes, and I like the dynamic of that quarterback room. I like having Gary in there with his experience and Micaiah Hillstead and Trayson Bourget and the rest of the group. I mean, they work really nicely together with A-Rod and Mitchell, with Matt Mitchell.
On the defensive side, you got 10 sacks, 27 tackles for loss through 5 games, a big uptick in that production. How much is that just simply the buy-in now that the players have had into the scheme, the knowledge? Like, what are you seeing as just the biggest differences from years past?
I think it's a combination of a bunch of factors, and you mentioned them. I mean, that we have a great coaching staff on offense and defense and special teams. And so I think the key probably having a lot of veterans helps out too, leaders, and that they're in year 2 of the system, understanding it now, and that's hard. That's difficult if you want to put in a system that's going to be effective. And I think now Jay and the rest of the defensive staff they basically have a lot of things that are available for them. I mean, the last call was something that was recommended to Jay from General Guilford, who understands the entire defense. And so when you have all these coaches that are giving their insight during the game and making adjustments, it's really cool that we have guys that are able to do that on both sides of the ball, and it's working really nicely right now.
Thanks, Mitch. We'll take some more questions from Jake Hatch and then Kevin Reynolds.
Kalani, you mentioned that Connor's going to be. Kalani, you mentioned that Connor may be out, obviously against the Arizona Wildcats, but wanted to get your thought. Are you going to spend this 2 weeks essentially reworking the interior of your offensive line, or is Sonny Makassini going to be your starting center for the time being?
Yeah, I think we'll see what we can do with the group. I trust TJ to get the get the center position right, and have all our guys up there doing well. I mean, I don't think when we had our O-line from the beginning of the season, not a lot of people saw that we used Sonny and Austin Leusa and Sonny Makassini, and then even in the Kansas State game, not a lot of people recognize that Bruce Mitchell was a starter there at guard. So we have capable players. It's just a matter of what gives us our best 5 and who's the one that's going to be snapping the ball. So we have some depth there. I think TJ can figure it out, and I trust him.
Speaking on the offense as a whole, is there any particular focus you will take in terms of, I guess, practice this week, emphasis you'll be making on offensive improvement this week?
Yep, the whole team getting better. That's everybody, and I mean it's when you have to look at the whole overall offense together as a playing without your two top running backs and making some changes at O-line, things like that. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, but I thought the guys did a great job as far as um, assignments and guys doing the right thing, proper technique. I think it worked out pretty nicely. So you just got to trust the guys get their job done and trust our coaches to do it.
Hey, Kalani, I don't think we got to talk a lot about it after last game, but when you think back to the 2021 Baylor game and compared to what you saw last week, how much do you think you've grown as a program just in terms of the depth and physicality, trying to build that up over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been trying to do since we got, invited to the conference is to really have this a specific effort at trying to get bigger and more physical and stronger. I mean, if you look at the front, I thought we did that on O-line, D-line. Thought defensive line handled the run really nicely. The front seven was really nice against the run. I thought quarterback. I thought Sawyer Robertson, quarterback, made some really good throws. I mean, he it wasn't like, I think there's one play where we had a mistake in coverage, but everything else he was just trying to he was fitting the ball in some tight windows. It wasn't like there was that one touchdown that they had where it was a wide open guy. But for the most part, I thought he made some really timely throws and some accurate throws. And so, there's still some opportunities for us to improve as a team, and one of them is locking it down. I thought you have to give Baylor some credit, man. They fought back and got back into the game when we thought we had it under control. So,
and where do you think Darius Lasser has grown the most from last year to this year, now in his second year in the program?
Yeah, he was good last year too. I mean, he's a solid receiver and tons of talent, great ball skills, and so I just got to keep working. This whole team needs to stay humble, stay hungry. That's going to be our key, So we got to enjoy the win, come back today, and let's get back to the criticizing our guys and seeing what they did wrong, and let's fix it, and what can we improve on, and then praise them for the things that they did well. But great opportunities for us to learn and get better. Darius has done a great job. He's looking forward to getting better. And this week we've got to find a way to improve as a program. That's been our approach every week, and we just happen to be 5-0 as we're doing this. So we got to stay humble and keep working hard.
Yeah, Kurt, you might have just answered it right there, but I was going to ask about that hungry and humble mentality. How do you kind of focus on keeping the guys hungry and humble as wins start piling up, and obviously the attention from the outside is the magnifying glass getting a little bit bigger on this group?
Yeah, that's our job. We got to keep them that way, and just remembering that not a lot of people believed in them from the beginning. So I'm not really worried about proving doubters wrong. We knew from before preseason that we had a special team. So we're just going through the motions of terms of playing the season. But man, these guys are finding ways to get better, and I like coaching them. So everybody else it's not about proving everybody wrong. It's about proving ourselves right. So that's what our focus is going to be on, and staying humble. But we got to still stick to being aggressive and trying to find ways to become even better. That's the goal.
Yeah, Coach, staying on the topic of being hungry and humble, what's made Crew Wakely these last couple of weeks so hungry? I think he had an interception, then a sack, and before the Baylor game was tied for leading the team in tackles.
Yeah, I think the defense is about everybody doing their 111th, and when your moment comes and there's opportunities, you seize it. And so very in terms of looking at, he did a great job. So very opportunistic for him to make plays when they come his way. But without the other 10 doing their job, it's not easy. I mean, it becomes easier for him to do his. So I'm really proud of the way he's played. Proud of the way that he keeps working every week to get better, and a lot of guys can learn from him and how, his approach, which is just put your nose down and go to work. And so we've proven that we're going to reward guys that do all the right things during the week. And if you do it right in practice Monday through Friday, it's probably going to show up on Saturday.
There's Kalani Sitake. Mitch, you get to chat with the man every week, and sometimes you're in the very same room. Sometimes it's just over Zoom. I feel like the weeks that you're just over Zoom, it might be nice just so that you don't have to get the total death stare, just the computer death stare from Kalani. But the reality is that, we've heard this message all year long about how, no one believes in BYU but them. Well, I'm telling you, this is a special group. We knew we had it. The thing is like things could change in a second, right? But I think that Kalani's been very consistent all year long about the fact that this team has felt different, and you've been following this team very closely, so have I, and it does feel different from last year's team.
They definitely are, and I have full confidence that they are going to a bowl game. There's no doubt in my mind about that. They're not going to go on a 7-game losing streak, but I'm curious to see what's that next step, because now all the film is out there. These teams are going to know your personnel, your tendencies with this, iteration, and how do you kind of have that next gear that keeps teams on their heels? Because you would say in that Baylor game, in that second half a week ago, they were stonewalled. They could do nothing offensively, right. And Baylor adjusted with Dave Aranda, who's a good defensive mind, and they just shut down BYU. And I do agree with Kalani that the criticisms about conservative play calling were wrong. I honestly came out of that Baylor game and did not feel that way. I just thought BYU executed poorly, and that's where I've got questions about BYU, because they've given you these stretches against P4 competition where they go for about 12 to 15 minutes, a quarter worth, and it don't look pretty. Even that Kansas State game that was so brilliant for BYU for the last 20 minutes or so, or 25 minutes of that game, the first 15, 20 were not that great. But, right. BYU's just got to play some complete football. I think Kalani's got to be excited that they still have that opportunity in front of them to put together some complete 60 minutes. And that's the challenge in front of them. And it starts this week with the Arizona Wildcats as the Cougs look to maintain that undefeated record. We got to take another break, though. On the other side, we'll get to some more BYU and Utah conversation and check in on things in the Big 12 Conference. And First and 12 is brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store. Get the freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's, happy shopping. More First and 12 coming up next.
Today's just the start of the Big 12 and Power 5 talk to come. Listen to JJ and Alex Monday on your drive home. Afternoons from 3 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It's First and 12. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper, happy Sunday to you, and happy shopping. Our program brought to you by Macy's. The freshest fruits and vegetables and your favorite local brands. You can find it right there at the Macy's Grocery Store that brings to you our Big 12 discussions every week on First and 12. So, Mitch, we get to chat every week with Mekhi Bernard on JJ and Alex, and this is something this week when we sat down with Mekhi, as we normally do. It was, it's never easy. When we've been doing this is our 4th or 5th season of these player clubs where we sit down with these players, BYU and Utah, and on the lost weeks, it's never fun. I never know how we're going to do it. I just assume they're not going to pick up the phone or they're not going to come down to the studio. But, to their credit, and a guy like Mekhi, too, Mekhi Bernard is Utah's running back. He's carried the most of that load at that position. He's also one of the de facto leaders of this program. Kyle Whittingham has talked about it. And, we asked him right off the bat, with that loss, how they kind of start to turn around. 1, how it happened, and 2, how they can right the ship going into this next week. And Mekhi is a super open book about all of this. And here's what he had to say about Utah with their loss to Arizona last week, and then looking forward to the rest of the season.
What do you feel like you've learned in the last few days since the game?
Oh, gosh. Really, the things we talked about in the press conference after the game, almost to a T, showed up on the tape. Didn't run the ball well enough. Didn't defend the run well enough. We dried up in the red zone, didn't convert 4th downs, we weren't physical enough, and really they came ready to play, and we were not as ready as they were, and they beat us, and that's what happens if you're not ready to play at your best.
Kyle, Cam's taken a lot of heat the last 2 years over his injury. It's not stuff that he can control, but is there anything maybe in how you handle injury reports or kind of the extent of how you process it that maybe can help that process? I know you can't control that either, but is there anything that way that can help?
All I'll say is Cam Rising wants to play worse than anybody, and when he's able to, he will. And it's not like he's been, just able to play and not going. That's not the case. I'm not sure what you mean when they say he's taking heat. I'm never on social media. I don't know anything that's going on out there, so I don't know where that's coming from. But I can tell you for certain that he wants to play, and as soon as he gets the go-ahead, he will play, and we hope it's this next game.
There have been true freshmen in the program who have started at quarterback and played significant time, but does Isaac impress you? Is he ahead of guys that you've had in the past?
Well, he's doing some really good things. He's also making some freshman mistakes. So there's it's a learning curve. Can't think off the top of my head who started as a true freshman in the past. If you gave me some names, I could maybe draw some comparisons, but he's done some things that have exceeded our expectations and some other things that, again, are very freshman-like. But he's shown a lot of toughness, a lot of courage. He's got a great deal of confidence, and he's got a lot of tools. He's got a lot of natural gifts to succeed at the position.
Does the way the offense has performed the past 2 weeks, I guess, emphasize the urgency to get Cam back in uniform?
Well, yeah, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and so that it's a quarterback-driven game. It's the most important position on the field, and it's not even close. And so if you got an elite quarterback like Cam Rising, yeah, that definitely helps to get him back on the field. It'll give us a big boost.
Kyle, you talked about red zone, obviously, and you have to be the big focal point.
Yes.
Where do you attack that?
Well, we know exactly what needs to happen. We got to be better schematically, put our kids in better position to succeed. We got to tweak some things in practice, the way we're going about it, and so we've got it all mapped out. I'm not going to say anything. Arizona State, we're not going to tell them what we're going to do or how we're going to do it, but we've definitely identified problems, and we know that we can get a lot better in that area.
How do you balance using this week?
What are the most pressing issues that you need to fix before Arizona State?
Well, coming off the last game, physicality at the line of scrimmage. Like I said, we got outrushed 2-1 essentially, and that can't happen. That's exactly how we beat up on people, and so it was disappointing to see that happen. We also got to tackle better. We went some live tackling today in practice because we didn't tackle well enough. Arizona's backs did a great job. They're physical, they're fast, but things that we can correct, and we're working on them, and we expect to be much better next week, obviously.
How do you balance using a bye week to get the team healthy and get right, and increasing physicality and making sure you're ready to bring that back?
Yeah, well, we're having 2 physical practices today and tomorrow, and so that'll be part of the first part as far as getting back to being physical. But you also want to give them a break. They've been playing football now for 2 straight months. If you go back to the 1st of August when fall camp started, so it's time for a bye week, and it comes at a good time in that respect. And let them get some of the bumps and bruises healed up, get their legs back underneath them, and refresh, I guess you could say, and get ready for the second half of the season.
How do you balance getting the ball to your star players while maintaining balance and keeping others involved in the offense? Well,
you try the best you can. There's only one ball, though, and if you got playmakers and you don't get them the ball, then everyone says, why aren't you getting the ball to the playmakers? And when you do, you say, why aren't you involving everybody? I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 in a way, but bottom line is you got 3, 4, 5 playmakers on the team that are above the rest, and you try to get the ball in their hands as much as you can. That's what football's all about, is getting the ball in the hands of the playmakers and matchups and taking advantage of those matchups.
Someone like Damian Alford, you guys brought in from the portal in the offseason. What does he need to do to get on the field for you guys?
Yeah, he's still struggling a little bit with assimilating the offense and getting all his assignments down. He does have a redshirt year. That may play into now as we go through deeper into the season, and so we'll see. We still believe in him. He's got a good skill set, but just got to make less mistakes.
A lot of conversation about Cam's leadership being absent from the offense. Is Karene's absence noticeable from the defense and the leadership standpoint?
We miss Karene tremendously. Now, those 2 defensive tackles are great leaders for us, Keanu Tanavasa and Junior Funa. But you can never have too many good leaders, and Kirry is a terrific leader, and crossing their fingers that he'll be ready to play very soon.
Mitch, I really like this dude's attitude. I mean, and he's a guy too. By the way, that running back room, everybody keeps wondering about who's going to be the guy. He's the guy. Like,
yeah.
Stop wondering. And by the way, he does kind of wonder, like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't get the ball as much as I mean, he had 16 carries for 91 yards. He was third in the conference in rushing going into this last weekend. And they could have definitely given him the ball more. Now, I'm not going to try to go in and second-guess the game plan because at the end they were trying to throw the football a lot to try to get back into that thing, which just shows you it's never good to get behind, especially at home. But really love Mekhi Bernard's attitude. I've loved having him on JJ and Alex all season long, and you can hear him every week on our program. And it's been really good to get his kind of insight. But he certainly doesn't see the sky falling like some fans do.
Nor should he. And coming into this season, the Big 12 kind of branded itself as running back U. It was the league of running backs, and Mekhi Bernard is squarely in that conversation.
Yeah.
He's playing much better than Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon is an afterthought in this conference right now Oklahoma State's just not giving him the ball enough. And so Mekhi Bernard is, in the upper tier of a league.
He's 6.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
He is 6.5 yards a carry this year. And so feed that guy the ball more. He wants it more. And people are like, well, he's a little bit smaller. I'm like, who freaking cares? He doesn't care. Like, it hasn't mattered either. So give him the ball more.
It's going to be a really good running back matchup next week, next Friday. Him, Mekhi Bernard, and Cam Scadaboo from Arizona State, two of the top running backs in this league. They were 4 and 5 in the top 5 this league. So, you got Taj Brooks, you got R.J. Harvey, DJ Giddens. It's a great league of running backs. Devin Neal still, even though, Kansas has been kind of forgotten a bit. But, Mekhi Bernard is among the best in the league. And I don't think that's being talked about enough because – we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show when it comes to injuries, but that's where, Cam Rising's presence in shadow and his injury kind of takes away from the successes and the talents of a guy like Mekhi Bernard, who's been nearly as long as Cam at Utah. He was at Agar High School, a big-time recruit.
Came in
2018.
17.
17, and he was a big-time addition when they got him out of California, and, he's had some ups and downs at Utah, but he's stuck with it, and he's having a big-time breakthrough season. So Utah coming out of the bye week, they got to make him a focal point, kind of like the Utah offenses of old, where forget the passing game. We're just going to Devontae Booker. We're just going to these great running backs and giving him 30 carries. I think Mekhi Bernard's established himself where he could do that if you need him to.
Let's take a break here. We'll come back. Speaking of injuries, we had a conversation this week with Connor Pay. One of the worst injuries BYU has had so far this season because of the leadership aspect that he brings. And he came on our program, and he told us exactly what the deal was. You'll get that chunk of sound again if you haven't heard it. But we'll also have the discussion about the injury bug because it's something that every team is having to deal with every year, and teams deal with it in different ways. We'll chat about that next right here. It's 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. It's 1st and 12.
A special edition of First and 12. The expanded college football playoffs. What Big 12 teams have the best shot? Can both Utah and BYU make it? And who goes on to win it all? Our hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Hope all of you are having a fantastic weekend. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry with you on 1st and 12. And it's been a bye week for BYU football and Utah football as the local teams got the chance to enjoy Big 12 action like all of us this weekend around the Big 12 conference. And the bye weeks came at a good time for both teams because both groups very banged up. They're having successful seasons, even though Utah's feels far different at 4-1 than BYU's 5-0. Both teams feeling the nicks and bruises, if you will, of a Power 4 schedule. And BYU, even though they're riding high at the moment, they got to get some guys healthy, and because they lost one of their key guys that you caught up with recently on JJ and Alex.
Yeah, it's Connor Pay. And, frankly, after the injury happened, full disclosure, just pull back the curtain here, Mitch. We asked Connor how he wanted to treat it because,
Sure.
we're dealing with him personally. We're dealing with the team, in a way. And something different happened this week, and that was I'm totally comfortable talking about it. So let's just go on and we'll all talk about it. I'll tell everybody. And we're kind of like, well, are you sure? Because like, we'll handle it however you want. And he goes, look, it's my body, and I'm comfortable talking about it. So there you go. And this is what it was. We started off the interview. You get exactly what the injury was. You get how it happened. Here's what Connor Pay said about that injury against Baylor and what the prognosis is.
You want to update Cougar fans on what happened and what your status is?
Yeah, so kind of unfortunate, on our second series, the first play of our second series of the game. Doing a zone combo block I've done a million times. Unfortunately tried to put force through my foot and it popped on me a little bit, and so unfortunately I fractured my foot. So I'll have surgery this week. They'll put a screw in it, and then 6-week timetable is the goal. So looking at the Utah game for a return.
Total bummer for Connor Pay to suffer that injury because, a year ago this time he was going through a season where he felt that was his last year at BYU. He had no intentions to be in this spot at BYU for one more ride. And when he said that to you guys, because you've been catching up with him weekly for the second season, and I thought back to, one of the reasons he wanted to run it back was he wanted to be part of a winning team because winning teams produce guys to the NFL. He's part of that winning team now, and he's graded out well. He's the 6th best pass blocking center in college football by Pro Football Focus grades. And, and then he has this setback. And I hope, man, that he can get back for that 6-week timeline to be back for the Utah game. That would be epic. It kind of makes me feel like that might be optimistic, but but still, I appreciate the transparency because now you move forward and you say, hey, Sonny Mocassini or Bruce Mitchell, whoever ends up getting that starting nod at center, you're the guy. And you get to get the spotlight and be celebrated like, okay, this is your chance to be a starter at center and be the guy that's snapping the football to Jake Retzlaff in this BYU offense. So, that's just kind of Connor Pay's personality, and I really respect that. That's why he's one of the best interviews on this BYU team.
Well, yeah, he's one of my favorite interviews we've ever had, and he's really an open book about it. But it opens up the conversation. Guess what? We asked him that question. He told us the answer, and yeah, it was a story for that day. You know what I mean? Like everybody, that was the update. That's what we got. And you know what? After that, now we know, right? Yep. There's the injury. Here's the timeline. And guess what we're not going to do? In 2 weeks, I'm not going to go, how's the screw feeling in your foot? You know what I mean? Like, honestly, we can't ask him about that. Like, there's no point because he said, I'm hoping to get back by week 6. I'm not going to go, has the screw fused to the bone? Like, these are not the things that I'm going to ask him. You know what I mean? Especially because the timeline is a 6-week turnaround, and he's really hoping for it.
And that's where you then get into the whole HIPAA thing where it's like, hey, tell me about the screw.
No, thanks.
You're like, we don't need to know that. Like, just hey, give us an update and have a little bit of transparency, and then we're moving on. And he can still talk, and he's still going to be on your show, JJ and Alex, every Tuesday, and it's great stuff. Like BYU fans have got to listen to those interviews because Connor's the best. And honestly, I mean, if after his NFL playing days are done, I hope he gets in the media because the guy's got a future in that space. But I just think that you're right. It just, we move on now. And that is one of the difficult things about football is that the world just does move on even after the injuries, but it's not a story where I compare it to, from my experience on the BYU beat 2 years ago, every week we were prying things out with Puka Nacua. What's the latest on Puka?
Or Jaron Hall. Same thing. Jaron Hall was, oh, man, how are you doing this week? No, I'll be good to go. And then we see him in the boot coming off the plane at the bowl game. Remember this whole thing? Right?
Yes.
I mean, like that. And so instead he comes on our show and would say, yeah, I'm feeling good. And we're like, does that mean you're playing? That's the hope. And I'm like, this sounds really freaking familiar now. If you're a Cam Rising fan, it's the same crap you have to hear. So I get it. Like, on the one hand, they can say whatever they want about their health. I will just say there's a reason people are like, I'm sick of this whole Cam Rising thing. Just make Isaac Wilson the starter, even though the guy's actually injured. And, by the way, he gives you the best chance if he's actually starting, Cam Rising does. But people just do this whole, you didn't tell me what's going on. I'm moving on from you. I'm divorcing you from my life. It's so weird. And I think that transparency probably is the answer here. And I'm not asking for, the whole injury report thing to get changed around. I just wish coaches would just say, hey, it's actually better for me because I'll just tell you what's going on with the player's blessing. Obviously, they need to kind of sign off on whether or not it's okay. You don't need to know if Connor Pay is going to be the starting center this week. We're not hiding anything from you. So the injury question this week was obviously one that was big. We had a lot of discussion about it, but yeah, you and I, we have a dog in this fight, and that is we cover college football and college football players, and we love the transparency part. So teams, it's not that big of a deal. Let's roll it out, man. Let's go.
And I think for someone like a Connor Pay or a Cam Rising, where they do have actual lives away from football, I'm sure they get sick and tired of people saying, hey, are you going to play? Like, what's going on? Like, that's got to just, like, hey, it's all out there, man. Like I said that, my foot got hurt and I'm going to probably be out 6 weeks. And now he can go about his life away from, lifting weights and doing whatever he's going to do the next few weeks. He can just, do his thing. And whereas Cam Rising, he goes to an NIL event this week, and everyone's sizing up that hand.
Show me your hands. Yeah. And everyone's guessing. Everyone's taking – how many screenshots did you have to look at this week of that stupid two-finger brace thing? And people are like, RoboCop over here. I don't even think those are real fingers. Just like the stuff that you end up having to hear. And, it's funny in that way.
It's getting to the point, Alex, where we – you know what? I don't need to hear from our presidential candidates about like inflation. Give me a Cam Rising report.
Give me a real update.
I gotta say, I talked to Kyle, and he's quite a guy. I gotta say,
his finger's the best. Yeah,
he's got a Stonewall defense, and it's quite good, I might add. That's what we need.
My goodness. All right, we're gonna take the break here. We'll come back when we do return. We've got to chat about what this schedule looks like for this next week of the Big 12 because Utah and BYU back in action. The rest of the conference back in action, of course. And it's a far cry from the slate of games that we have this weekend. So glad to at least get past that one at the very least. We get our local teams playing again. So for Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, we'll be right back. We've got one more segment with you. Stay with us on a Sunday. It's First and 12 brought to you by Macy's. Happy shopping. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Can't get enough BYU football? Listen to Cougar Nation. Mitch Harper takes your calls Monday nights from 6 to 7 on KSL News Radio. Podcast at kslnewsradio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Final segment of your Sunday of First and 12 on a bye week edition of First and 12. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry. I'm Alex. He's Mitch. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate you guys joining us. And, of course, every week right here. Normally we're on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone. We're always found, though, in podcast form. So just go to KSLSports.com and click on the podcast button. You can find the First and 12 there. Or you can just use the old search feature on whatever podcasting platform that you use and find First and 12. And, boy, it's been a fun year so far. We're only halfway through. Isn't that wild? We're almost halfway through this whole dang thing.
It's so crazy. And
we do it every year. We say it every year. Oh, I can't believe it. It's going to go so fast. And then we're like, yeah, right, but it never gets there. And then suddenly we're in week 6 of college football. We've already had the first bye week in the bag. And here we are, Mitch. We're wondering about these two teams. It's a pretty fun year so far.
It has been a lot of fun, and it is weird to think that it's in October and the weather's changing, and we're settling into the heart of this season. And the Week 7 slate is a lot better than Week 6.
Thank heavens.
And it starts with a Friday night game involving the Utes, Utah at Arizona State, 8:30 p.m., ESPN. This is a big game for Utah. And look, I think Utah's going to be the favorite, and Utah's the better football team. But
sure,
Arizona State's shown us this year that they can be a tough out. And Utah on the road, and there's going to be the questions leading up. Everyone's going to be monitoring Cam Rising. This is a game, too, I think, from just like a narrative side with a Friday night spotlight where Friday night games are getting huge ratings these days. Mm-hmm. It could be a real chance for Utah come back, bounce back, make a statement. If you win big, okay, this is an at-large playoff team once again. So it's kind of a narrative shifter game, I think, for Utah if they can have a big performance in Tempe.
Sorry, did you say it was an 11 p.m. kickoff here locally? What did you say?
8:30.
It's crazy. Like these, and I get it. It's a Friday night at least. That's good. We'll have that one in the books early. And then Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, it fires up. Cincinnati goes to UCF. Is UCF playing any more road games at all this year? What's going on?
I'm with you. It's like just every week the bounce house is hosting games. UCF at home. UCF at home.
Right. And UCF, so they did. They hosted Colorado. They're hosting Cincinnati this weekend. And then BYU and Utah both have to go to UCF. It's a freaking wild deal.
I'm convinced Terry Mahajer, a dear friend of yours, was just saying, I have to have every game in Orlando. You guys didn't believe in us. Well, give us some more home games, and we'll prove our worth.
Yeah. Terry Mahajer, who's the athletic director of UCF, don't call me Central Florida, is like him and Brett Yormark, they're in step, dude. I think I'm convinced they both have about the same energy, and so it's
your interview with Mahajer has just been ingrained in my soul to never call them Central Florida.
Oh my goodness!
I am just instilled to call them UCF.
It doesn't. I can't remember who it was. It was like Hanson Scotty, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We're talking to a guy from UCF, and he's like, Central Florida's play-by-play man. I was like, someone's going to get murdered during this interview. And I know that, like, these other guests who come on and aren't on in our market ever, they're being really nice. They're gritting their teeth, and they're going, yeah, we're really fans. We really love it. Like, don't call them Central Florida. All right, so, yes, Cincinnati at UCF. Cincinnati's an interesting one. But Arizona comes to BYU, and this has taken a totally different turn, right? Because they came on the road and beat number 10 Utah at night and outplayed Cal Whittingham on the defensive side of the ball, on top of the fact that, their offense wasn't doing much. But 10 points for the Utes that night at home. And I know part of that is your freshman quarterback and some of the mistakes that were made, whatever. But the reality is Arizona outplayed Utah at their place, which kind of gives you a little bit of a moment for pause, obviously, if you're a BYU fan. As Arizona comes in, I think people looked at that one early in the season and said, wow, that'll be a win. But that's what Ute fans did, too, at their peril.
And Arizona beat Utah at its own game with the physicality piece. So BYU better be ready for this one. And they've got the clear edge Arizona does at quarterback. And Jake's done a really good job this year. He's got BYU in a great spot. But Noah Fafita, he reminded myself and I think all of college football how good and brilliant he can be as he was against Utah. So that's a huge game. And I think that I love that, Fox picked it up for an afternoon spot because and I've kind of been following just the trends of how the linear networks are picking up games. We're not seeing many Big 12 now ESPN Plus. In fact, this whole week coming up,
it's all pretty much big ESPN and big Fox. There's one ESPN2. That's it.
And I think that's it's a noteworthy trend that you're seeing these games go to Fox, where it becomes that 2 p.m. spot is almost like the Big 12 game of the week.
Yeah.
And it's just becoming a weekly trend where a Big 12 team is playing there. And when you're forecasting between now and 2031 and trying to grow the league and the narratives and things like that, like it's important to get eyeballs on this product in the Big 12. And I think the Four Corner schools their fan bases, at least it feels like, are enjoying this exposure because, these teams, Arizona, they were always on Pac-12 Network. It was, ESPN2, or it was not great spots. I mean, this is afternoon Fox. This should be a big, visible game where you're getting like maybe 3-4 million viewers.
And look, the good news is this. I think that because you're BYU and you're at home and the daytime game thing at least can be put to rest for a little bit, and I know they're only 1-10 in their last 11. I know that's the number, but I do think that this BYU team has turned a corner when it comes to just kind of creating a different narrative around what they are. Iowa State goes to West Virginia. All right, that's a game where the Cyclones can say, hey, tougher one on the road, got to figure that one out. This last one, though, is a matchup between two teams who were also they both had bye weeks last week, didn't they? Both Kansas State and Colorado had bye games this week or byes this week, so they're going to be going into next week. Kansas State goes to Colorado. This could either be an absolute coming out party for Prime, or it could just be the back to reality situation because Kansas State's going to be on the warpath the rest of the year. And I think Colorado might end up being on the losing end of that one just because Kansas State now, after that loss to BYU, has got a lot to prove. And Colorado, I still think, is kind of faking it. I don't know. Maybe that's just my thought.
Yeah, because I don't believe in their trenches. And Kansas State will maul them in the trenches. I thought UCF would, but, they did not a couple weeks back. Kansas State, though, they turned the corner with that win over Oklahoma State. And I still believe, if I'm going to bank on anyone in this league to consistently perform at a high level each and every week, I still feel like it's Kansas State, because they've had this trend where they drop a game in September. Tulane, I think a few years back they dropped a game to Troy. Not comparing BYU to those teams, but Kansas State's always had an uncharacteristic loss in September, and then they turn it on. And I just think Kansas State's going to fall in line once again. But hey, if Prime and the Buffs can pull that one off, man, they will be living large, and the social media content will just be off the charts. I can only imagine what that content machine is going to create if they can take down K-State.
This is going to be a fun plane ride on the way home.
Help me understand that. Prime, he's a great guy. He's a tremendous guy, and I might add, he's got great jewelry. Sanders. Who the heck's Sanders?
I tell you what. Tell me who. Sorry, what was our record again? Everyone goes 4-1. Sorry, what was that?
It was a great record, Prime. Can you imagine those two getting together in the same room? Oh my gosh, I would be like mind blown.
I can't get enough of it. All right, Mitch. That's another one in the books this week, buddy.
Great stuff.
I'm excited about it. All right, we'll be back again for a more normal edition of First and 12 next week, because we'll have a lot more of BYU and Utah to track and to talk about. And so for Mitch Harper, I'm Alex Kirry. Mitch, thanks again, man. We'll always love doing this show.
Oh, always love it too, Alex.
All right, we'll take the break here, and we'll come back next week. This has been a production of the KSL Sports Zone and KSL News Radio. It is First and 12. We'll see you next week, everybody.